Death Benefits by Hassan Rasheed. Prelude. Nature follows the laws of physics while evolution obeys the laws of nature. Unfortunately, humans have a mind of their own. I will therefore try to get you comfortable once again with nature and help you realize nature has accumulated 4 billion years worth of wisdom on Earth. Chapter 1: The Living Cycles. In simplest of terms, life is a chemical reaction requiring energy. With a fixed amount of incoming energy from the sun hitting the planet's surface, lowering the amount of energy required for this chemical reaction to take place allows for a proliferation of life. If the reader asks how they might lower the amount of energy required for a chemical reaction, the answer would revolve around the availability of catalysts and enzymes as a biological catalyst. In most cases where an enzyme is required, reactions occur faster because they require less energy to activate the reaction. You can think of a catalyst as a tool like a wrench, which makes it so much easier to unscrew a nut. In summary, increased energy efficiency using tools, such as an enzyme, occurs when there are mutations in our offspring which lead to more efficient enzymes. As far as we are aware, the cycles discussed above are neither the rule nor the exception for the movement of matter on and within Earth's mantle. However, they are certainly present in each species in their circulatory systems. Specific groups of species, such as those found in a forest, circulate matter too. One can say that energy drives the circulatory system of forests, for example. Without it, forests would collapse because each of its links, whether one species or a piece of inanimate matter, provides a tiny link in the recycling of life-giving nutrients. This makes them available for regeneration of the forest. When looking out a window or strolling through a park, the reader may observe trees, birds, grass, and bees, to name just a few of the life forms present in our surroundings. When focusing on a flower merely as an object, it may appear entirely independent of the other objects around it, but the truth is that it is intimately connected with all other objects in its immediate vicinity. For example, when sitting in a park you might see a bird, a bison, flowers, clover, a fly, a puma, and a tree. A clover needs soil to grow. As a mature plant, it later provides nourishment for the bison which roam the plains of the Midwest. The puma, meanwhile, later hunts out the bison for food. When it manages to bring one down, it drags what it can of the carcass to the shade of a tree to eat. Flies gather around the carcass to feed, lay eggs, and try to avoid the birds that feed on them. The above imagined picture and explanation are obviously simplified, but they show how different species are so closely interlinked. A little more accurate representation of the cyclical link between species: imagine a circle with the following live representatives from top left and moving in a clockwise direction: a bush, then a goat, a human, a fly, a bird, amoeba, bacteria, then back to the bush. When following the cyclical picture in your mind, starting with the green bush at the top left, a story can be told of how nutrients flow from one species to another. First, the bush extracts water and minerals from the soil and with the help of the sun and atmosphere produces tender leaves which are consumed by the goat to build its muscle, maintain its growth, and hopefully also give birth. The goat in turn is consumed by the human in the picture. The leftovers from the goat are used by the fly to lay its eggs. Some birds will feed on those flies, while the goat, human, bird, and fly leave behind fecal matter that is consumed by various microbes such as amoebas and bacteria, which return the nutrients back to the soil once again. On any given territory, there are multitudes of life cycles, but perhaps with different species that participate in returning the atoms and chemical compounds, nutrients, back to the soil and into the atmosphere. In addition, these living cycles can often be interrelated. For instance, a living cycle that starts with a bush can have more than one grazer consuming it. They may be goats, sheep, or deer. These living cycles can take the form of several interlocking circles. Looking at a square acre of land and trying to describe the number of living cycles within it, one may count many millions of combinations. Their arrangements can include interlocking circles that take varying shapes and sizes. Living cycles are not limited to food either. They can be observed in relation to nest building, territory, and so on. In the case of a bird building a nest in a tree, when the eggs hatch and the fledglings fly away, the nest may fall to the ground where insects break it down and pass on the resulting matter to amoebas and bacteria, which will return the nutrients back to the soil to be used by the bush. This is a key point in the discussion to introduce the concept of an ecosystem. A forest is an example of an ecosystem. Like any ecosystem, it contains megacycles of circular chains involving both the air, soil, water, plants, and animals. A forest is not the only ecosystem. A desert such as the Sahara Desert is also considered an ecosystem. Summary: the chain of life is circular, meaning there is no start or end, no top or bottom link, nor is there any intelligent link or any particularly unintelligent one. The chain is nevertheless very complex. It contains many circular side chains. It is like a solid sphere where no one circular chain can be distinguished from another. Life is also cyclical, where its chemicals are cycled through the environment and the living. Chapter 2: Birth and Death. Life started out approximately 4 billion years ago without death from old age. Amoebas, bacterium, and their precursors did not have an internal mechanism that made them die at a certain age like humans. Death to them was when they were eliminated by external forces, such as being eaten by a larger species. In the event they ran out of food, they didn't die but moved into a state like hibernation for however long until food was available once again. So, why don't humans live beyond a certain age? Why can't humans live like the amoebas and never die unless they are eaten by a hungry lion, for example? If we start with a simple species like the slime mold that can grow on our old loaves of bread, we will get a clue. Slime mold are amoeba-like organism that can live freely as a single cell that roams around looking for food, but can also aggregate to form multicellular reproductive structures. When food becomes scarce, a population of over 1,000 related cells gather together and form, using their bodies to do so, a long vertical stalk with a sticky fruiting body at the very top. The hope is that an insect or small animal, a host, comes by and the fruiting body sticks to its leg or fur. After the host travels a ways, the fruiting body may drop off in a new territory where food might be plentiful, and its cells go their separate ways, once again foraging and multiplying on their own until food runs out, and the process repeats itself. The slime mold cells that made up the stalk are left behind and die. So, the strategy of the slime mold is to sacrifice those forming the stalk in order for their relatives forming the fruiting body survive and multiply in a new territory. We can characterize this mold species as nomadic in a way. When food is scarce, some move on with the help of their relatives. More complex species like the chimpanzees are also nomadic. When they migrate from one area to another, it is because they run out of a limiting factor such as food or shelter. Unlike the slime mold, they all migrate as a small group of 10 to 20 individuals. No sacrifice is required. They have a territory they move around in and protect from other chimpanzees or other harmful species. Chimpanzee births are important for more than one reason. The environment is not always safe, and 1 or 2 individuals may perish in a year's time, so they need replacements through births, or else the population will become extinct in approximately 10 years or so. Another positive factor of births is the introduction of beneficial mutants that are stronger or more efficient at foraging. With mutations that increase the birth rate, such as birthing twins or triplets, the population will grow and eventually be out of balance with its environment. For example, the population will run out of resources due to overpopulation. In this case, the death rate must increase to avoid this from happening. As it turns out, the genetic makeup of chimpanzees includes genes for old age then death. These genes will prevent the population from over-consuming its environment. This same logic can be applied to the human species when it first appeared in Africa so many years ago. However, today modern humans have created an environment which includes sciences such as medicine and agriculture. Science has increased the human birth survival rate, the survival of individuals of childbearing age, and pushed back death from old age. As a result, the human population has grown exponentially to 7.5 billion, and it appears it will run out of critical resources in a matter of years. Summary: for a species to maintain balance with its environment, birth and survival rates must equal death rates. It must be realized from the previous chapter on the cyclical nature of life on Earth that nothing is really lost by death. Life is a chemical reaction, and life-giving chemicals cycle through the environment, returning to where they once started. The raw materials that go into the generation of new life come from the raw materials generated by death. The Amazon is burning because we are not good stewards of the land. The seas and oceans are becoming depleted of life because we are not good stewards of them. The air we breathe is becoming polluted because we are not good stewards of the atmosphere. The evidence shows we were never meant to be managers of anything. On the contrary, we were meant to be managed by nature. We were meant to live as the dwindling indigenous tribes around the world live, seeking a simple life in balance with our environment. The following chapter will give an example. Chapter 3: The Forest People. The following is from the book The Forest People, by Colin M. Turnbull, 1962. The Mbuti people live in the Ituri Forest, a tropical rainforest covering about 27,000 square miles of the north/northeast section of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Africa. Mbuti are pygmy hunter-gatherers, and are one of the oldest indigenous people of the Congo region. They are composed of bands ranging from 15 to 60 people with a population hovering around 30,000 to 40,000. The Ituri forest has a high amount of rainfall annually, ranging from 50 to 70 inches. The dry season is relatively short, ranging from 1 to 2 months in duration. The forest is a moist, humid region strewn with rivers and lakes. Disease is prevalent in these conditions and can spread quickly, killing not only humans, but major sources of food as well. Too much rainfall, as well as droughts, can greatly diminish the food supply. In the rainy season, they forage in part of the forest, and in the dry season, they expand their foraging territories. Their wild animal foodstuffs include crabs, shellfish, ants, larvae, snails, pigs, antelopes, monkeys, fish, and honey. The vegetable component of their diet includes wild yams, berries, fruits, roots, leaves, and kola nuts. While hunting, the Mbuti have been known to specifically target the giant forest hog, which is often considered query, a bad animal which may cause illness to those who eat it, and is commonly used as a trade good between the Mbuti and agriculturalist Bantu groups. Folklore has it that the query giant forest hog is nocturnal and disruptor of the few imported agricultural activities the Mbuti practice. Mbuti societies have no ruling group or lineage, no overlying political organization, and little social structure. The Mbuti are an egalitarian society in which the band is the highest form of social organization. Leadership may be displayed, for example, on hunting treks. Men and women basically have equal power. Issues are discussed and decisions are made by consensus at fire camps. Men and women engage in the conversations equally. If there is a disagreement, misdemeanor, or offense, then the offender may be banished, beaten, or scorned. The forest is the center of Mbuti life. They consider the forest to be their great protector and provider and believe that it is a sacred place. They sometimes call the forest mother or father. An important ritual is referred to as malamo. After the death of an important person in the tribe, malamo is noisily celebrated to wake up the forest in the belief that if bad things are happening to its children, it must be asleep and not taking care of them. As with many Mbuti rituals, the time it takes to complete a malamo is not rigidly set. Instead, it is determined by the mood of the group. Food is collected from each hut to feed the malamo, and in the evening the ritual is accompanied by the men dancing and singing around the fire. Women and children must remain in their huts with the doors closed. These practices were studied thoroughly by British anthropologist Colin Turnbull, known primarily for his work with the tribe. The remoteness of the Mbuti people has protected them and their environment from the outside world for the most part in pre-1960. Their birth and death rates are high and roughly equal, and as a result there are no overpopulation problems. Modern advances such as medicine and other technologies have had a rough time reaching them. Although there is no formal constitution or government, the context of their being is in their belief system. They are one with the forest. This factor has helped the Mbuti people escape the non-cyclical problems of other modern and advanced peoples such as deforestation, overuse of resources, pollution, overpopulation, and the accumulation of toxic wastes, to name just a few difficulties. Summary: if there is a living example of a viable goal post for humanity to live by on a healthy planet Earth, it is represented by the Mbuti people. They are not alone. Other similar tribes exist today in remote parts of the earth that exhibit similar characteristics. All deserve protection from the modern civilized societies. Chapter 4: The Sixth Major Extinction. The world's economic locomotive is running at full juggernaut speed and unable to stop. It is so because a democratic consensus to slam on the brakes will invalidate the whole economic system the population has grown dependent on for so long and will result in extreme hardship. In conclusion, there is no hope of stopping the locomotive in time, and it will drive itself off of the cliff of extinction and take approximately 50% of Earth's life with it. In 2020, it was estimated that 15 million different species live on our planet, but only 2 million of them are currently known to science. Furthermore, it is estimated that approximately 900,000 species have gone extinct in the period between 1993 and 2022. And that trend is accelerating, the reason being once one species dies, the balance of the reset of the species in an ecosystem becomes increasingly unstable, causing a dominoes effect leading to other species' demise. And within the next 78 years, a mass extinction with the point of no return fast approaching in the coming 20 to 30 years. But death indeed is a process all life on Earth experiences. The death we are facing here is that of 7 million species and thousands of ecosystems going extinct. No matter how immense the event, it is a natural process of recycling. By retiring a failed species or group of species, nature lays the foundation for new life. For example, the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction 66 million years ago laid the groundwork for the evolution of humans and their cohabitant species. It is similar to when your computer messes up and you need to reset it. Nature has determined that the current evolutionary course on Earth is a failure and it needs to be reset. As you may guess, nothing is really lost. Atoms and molecules simply move around the environment and eventually return to the land. By doing so, they get ready to bring forth new species and biomes with the help of the sun. As far as our intellect and consciousness are concerned, they will be deleted from the universe forever, along with many vestiges of the voyage that got us to this tragic shore we find ourselves on today. It is necessarily so, simply because we rejected nature's ways and wrought against them with alien ideas. Ideas such as water shouldn't meander, and the secret to happiness on this planet is the accumulation of wealth and the spread of prosperity. But humans do not have to carry the burden of guilt as many do for the upcoming biotic disaster. After all, we are like nature, reacting chemicals, obeying the laws of physics. So, sit back and enjoy the ride with art, music, song, and dance, for these activities enhance our lives, emanate from our hearts, and do not harm the planet. And so, from the soil will spring forth new species, ecologies, intellectuals, and consciousness. Only nature knows of their kind. We can only hope these new life forms are nature lovers for at least a while and realize that they are all an integral part of a fresh new world. This has been an essay entitled Death Benefits by Hassan Rasheed.